Hey everyone, Arbor617 here, back with another Blender Minecraft quick tip type thing. This was something I've had questions about for a long time, and it's taken me a little while to get around to it. I've been pretty busy lately. We're going to be looking at the enchantment effect in Minecraft and how you can kind of recreate that using Blender. So I want to do it a little bit different in this quick tip. Rather than just jumping straight to the answer and just showing you how I do everything, I think it might be kind of important to actually show you how I came up with the solution, because that's one thing. If you're doing things like Blender and 3D animation, you're going to, at one point, run into things that you just don't know how to do, and there's not tutorials for them, and you have to figure out yourself. So being able to figure out these types of things is an important skill as well. So I'm going to be showing you how I came up with this. So the very first thing I did, of course, was I went into Minecraft and looked, how does the actual enchantment sword look, or enchantment effect in general. And you can kind of see it's just these kind of wavy looking things moving across. The sword itself was pretty much unchanged. It just had the kind of overlay of this, energy that just kind of moves across it. And of course, if you're into digital art type stuff, you will know this as fractal noise. Sorry for the loud typing, but basically, it's basically creating some sort of effect that looks kind of like these things. Just fractal noise, which is just running up the sword. So then, of course, it's like, how do I recreate that in Blender? So then I, of course, start Googling things like, Blender, fractal noise or something. And then that's, of course, how I came up with the solution you're about to see. So if I go into I'm going to split my view in half. Split it. There we go. And in the left side, I'm going to go into the node editor. And we're going to, if I press N and get rid of that little window. And in fact, I can actually make this window pretty small, because we don't really need to see much of this. And we're going to mostly be working in the node editor. And if you don't see all this stuff, this is the way, using MC Prep, it sets up the stuff like this. It doesn't really matter if it's exactly like this. But if you don't see this at all, you might have to go down here and click on the material for object. You might be in like render layer, you might have to go to this, and you might be in world. You gotta get over here, basically. Anywho, so here's our, sword. If I render it out, you'll see it just looks like a normal sword. So we want to overlay that kind of fractal noise effect, things like this. So what do? I hit Shift A to create a new node. I ended up just typing in noise. What do you know? Noise texture. Cool, they already have a noise texture. That saved us some problems. So to see what the noise is actually doing, let's just cut all this other stuff off right now. If I hold Control, click and drag, cut the wire. Oh, and for some reason this sword rig I'm using has the blade and the item as different materials, which is actually might be kind of useful. Let me actually undo this. For the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to actually work with the blade material, just this part. Again, cut this, pull it down here, Shift A to create the new node. We're going to type in noise, and we need an actual diffuse or something that the image can go into. That way we actually have the material. And we will bring the noise into the diffuse, and we have something going on. However, it turns solid white. And the reason for that, I believe, has something to do with the noise texture. It just doesn't show up in the material mode. Unfortunately, you have to go to rendered. Texture doesn't show it either. You have to go to rendered. But as you see, we've got something going on here. But now we want to play with that and make that look more like the actual enchantment effect in Minecraft. So the two things I did. First, I added a hue saturation after the noise. And I turned the saturation to 0, because all we're going to want is blue and black. We don't want all the different colors. By default, it has all these silly colors. Sorry if it's a little bit dark. Actually, I can even, until we do the renders, I'm going to turn up ambient occlusion so you can see it a little bit better. Anyway, so let's turn off the saturation, and then I'm going to add a brightness, not a brick texture. I'm going to add a brightness contrast, and then I'm going to hook that up. We're going to start playing with the contrast until we get, nice looking kind of effects. Bring down the brightness a little bit. The scale seems very high, so now is where you start playing around with things like, okay, maybe the scale's too big. Maybe I want to play with this a little bit more. It also looks like the way it's applying is a little strange. I believe if we go into texture coordinates, sorry, I'm just playing around with something for a moment, trying to get a Here we go. Okay. So, played around a little bit. I put it in through a UV coordinates. I noticed that it looked a little strange. It was kind of symmetric. So I brought it in through the UV. I had to play around with the values a lot to get a little more interesting effect. You can have more detail or less. I like to actually have kind of low detail for this effect. Anyway, for some reason with this UVs, I had to have the... There we go. Now we're starting to see like the actual things. Anyway, we don't want it to actually be like that. We want it to be a lot smoother. Maybe the size is getting too small. So make it bigger. Okay, and here we go. Now, okay, this is actually looking right about what we want, right around there. We've got that kind of effect. But, of course, in Minecraft it was blue. So, you just do something like a curves, RGB curves, put that in here. And then you can start, playing with these values. Let's go into the blue. What I'm trying to do is get the blue effect. It's having a hard time getting those bright spots. I think maybe because there's just too much contrast. I want it to be blue. But it's not. Oh, here, okay, we're getting close. It's got really intense highlights, which I don't want. So let me turn the contrast. There we go. Now we're getting closer. Okay, that's actually pretty good. And then of course you can play around the colors, maybe make it a little more like enchanted like that. Anywho, now we actually kind of have something that looks good. But we want to put this on top of the sword. So you can literally, it's as simple as just using an add shader. And we're going to mix whatever we had originally on the top, and we're going to add this enchantment effect over. So original, and then with our little enchantment effect. And boom, like that's already kind of what we wanted. However, I like to, rather than diffuse, I use an emission. That way it's a little bit brighter, and you can even play around a lot more with like how bright you want it to be. And what I also do, in addition to all this, we'll get there in actually just a second. Actually, let's just get to it now while I'm thinking about it. What we can do is a little trick I think I showed in my original tutorials on how to make lights brighter without actually changing the way it looks. So if you mix it with this, okay, hold on, sorry, let me set this up first and then I'll actually kind of explain it. We're going to take what we just had, everything we had up till now, and we're going to mix it with an emission, and we're going to use this light path is camera ray. If it's the camera ray, it's going to use this emission. If not, or if it's camera ray, it's going to use that one. If not, it's going to use this. So now you can use this to, if you crank this super duper high, you'll see now, look how the area around it's getting super bright. And we got even the blades getting super bright, which you don't really want, obviously, that much, but you can make a little bit, and it kind of makes the plate, and you can turn this to being like a cool blue. So now we're making the sword actually illuminate. We can even bring this up to like 1.2. And if we want to change this diffuse to an emission as well, now the actual sword itself will continue to be bright, even in the dark. So now we really have something that's looking pretty cool. So the very last step is, of course, if I scrub through the timeline, nothing actually moves. But that can be solved simply through a, texture mapping, I believe it's called? Texture, not texture coordinates. Mapping, there it is, mapping. If you put a mapping thing in here, we can literally just, it's as simple as just, sliding this value, and there you go, you got your enchanted effect. And you might notice as you start moving this, it looks bad. So let's actually go back to 0. We're gonna insert a keyframe on the location at frame 0. And what I usually do, I just make sure this unlock thing is hit, just go way forward in time, and then just move this value around. We want it to kind of go up the sword. We're going to set another keyframe, play it back. Now it looks to be pretty slow. It looks to be very slow. So we can go into our animation editor likely. I just switched to animation. Here's our two keyframes. If you want to be faster, just pull them together. And what I also do down here in the shader thing, we want to grab these, Shift E, linear extrapolation. That way it'll continue doing that type of you know, move, there we go, now you can see it'll, whatever, if we move these around, oh, and also actually the next thing I want to do actually is go to the keyframe here and press T, set to linear. We want it to be linear, there we go. Now, if I go back to default and press play, there we go, look at that, woo, 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 ta-da. And that's pretty much it. I mean, we got our emissions, we got, you know, giving off brightness. You might even want to go to this, whoops, clicked out of it. Because this one's kind of weird with two materials, might go to the original material and do the same kind of mix thing that we do with the blade path. That way even the sword itself is going to be kind of casting some light on the scene. Now, yeah, now it looks a little brighter, and if I render it out, ta-da, that looks pretty cool. And of course, you gotta have the glow. And that's actually just a little compositing stuff, which I'll actually, it's a little bit intense right now. Maybe just because the blade is maybe a bit intense. But if we go into our compositing, this is how I kind of have my compositing set up right now. Might want to kind of turn some of these values down a bit. That looks a little better. But having the compositing effect really makes things like enchantments look a lot better. Here's how it looked initially, and then here's how it looked like going through all those post-processing effects. Just gets a little more blur. I think in this case all I really did, I added a glare, and then I added like a little custom glowy effect that kind of gets this just kind of general, if I make, you know, here's a more intense version, just gets this kind of general like glow around it. And if you're curious about that, this isn't really too related, but what I do for that, I just take the image out, bring it through a color corrector, play around with the gamma and the gain, some of these values, blur it, then just add it right back. So again, it's you have your normal frame, your image, bring it into a color corrector, I play with the values so you get these really, you know, highlights, everything else is really dark, blur it, and just add it right back. Then I put a glare node on top of it to get some more brightness. That pretty much sums it up. As you can see now, we got the enchantment effect, we got it moving along. That's about it. Sorry, this one was a little bit more crummy and kind of sloppily put together. I was just trying to get some little tip out there because I haven't done a tip in a while. And also I wanted to do it a little bit more different, where I kind of, rather than just boom jumping to an answer that I know it works, I wanted to try something where I kind of show you how I came up with it, and I actually, you know, play with the numbers here till we find something. So I think it's kind of important to know things that don't work as well, rather than me just showing you this is what works. It's important to kind of see that, oh, you know, sometimes we'll try things that don't work, and sometimes we'll play with the colors and everything will mess up. If you like the older way better, where I just show you the answer, let me know. I can just keep doing that in the future. For future quick tips, I thought it'd be better if I actually kind of pose some ideas at the end of one quick tip, and you can give me opinions on what you want to see next. For example, I've been working on a cool, well, I didn't work on it, I figured out a cool new water effect in the last animation survival games. We were trying to make the water look better. It just looked really flat and empty. I tried using like the ocean modifier and all this displacement. The render time was huge and all messed up. And I ended up coming up with this extremely simple, basic way that made the water look a lot better. And it didn't increase the render times like at all. So if you want to, you know, see how I did that, I can do a quick tip on the water. I've also done some stuff with translucency and mixing leaves and grass, the shaders with translucency to make the vegetation feel a little bit more natural and the light kind of passes through them, which greatly will make your outdoor vegetation scenes look a lot better. I also did a little bit of stuff with HDR lighting, kind of related to the translucency. So let me know which one. Oh, and also particles. Everyone's been asking about particles ever since I did the T-Bow Part 3 effects with the dragon breath and stuff. I've been kind of staying away from that one a little bit just because it's really not specific to Minecraft. If I do a quick tip on that, it probably won't even be Minecraft. It'll just be a Blender quick tip or something, because it was just basically Blender cycles particles. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this enchantment effect. If you want to use enchantments, now you know kind of how to do it. And again, sorry if this was a little bit slower and sluggier and, you know, watching me mess around. I just wanted to kind of try something a little bit different this time, and hopefully it wasn't a total waste. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. What the heck? Whoa. Oh, what the heck? I'm in my world. I see my world, but I'm in that. Whoa. What is wrong with this? This is cool. Where am I? Okay. That was interesting. I was in a single player world and multiplayer at the same time. Interesting. Huh. Test. Whoa. What is wrong with this? Anyway, what the heck?